Hi everybody, it's crazy, it's Monday, and it's time for the UPBGE video of the week. Now before I get started, gotta give a shout out to my trusted because you guys rock. To my crazy fam, I love you guys. And to my Patrons, thank you for your continued support. Now we're up to episode number 51, and we left off with animation cycles. And it's on page 5, it's at the top of page 5. And let's just go ahead and get started. Now, I'm gonna switch over to here so you can see I've got a little animation I set up. Okay, and I'll go into in depth with it just here in a few minutes. Okay, but I'm gonna read from that until I get to it. Okay, all right. An animation cycle is usually a short action, that when repeated produces the illusion of a continuous long movement. Okay, so basically, if I hit play, hit space, you notice the continuous long movement, okay? A classic example is the walking animation of a character. You know walking animations in almost every video game that's got a character, okay? You don't need to animate the left step, then the right step, then the left, then the right, ad infinitum, okay? An action with a left and right step can produce the same result. Just make sure the action starts and ends in the same pose, and you can keep playing it in a loop. I just showed you that because on this one, let me go here to the timeline and I will show you what I'm talking about, or what they're talking about. This frame and this frame are exactly the same, okay? This frame and this frame are exactly the same, as you can see, okay? All I did was add them out this way, so that way it will go back to the very beginning. And when I play this animation, make sure you always put it on the first frame, okay, before you hit P. All right, now hit the space bar. You'll watch that it'll go to a certain point, and it's going to come back, and it's going to go to it's going to continue that forever, okay. Animation cycles are at the core of the character animation in a game. A library of multiple animations can provide a diverse and rich behavior for your game character. As a reference, in a game project such as Yo Frankie, the main characters, Frankie and Moo Moo, have 87 and 70 individual unique actions, respectively. A few of the actions you can find there are walk, walk back, walk faster, turn left, turn right, jump, pick, thrown, jump, idle sleep, idle show off, and many others. Moving animation cycles. A lot of basic animations of a game can be expressed as moving animation cycles. To walk, to run, to spin, to fly, to roll, and to swim. You may have noticed that all these example actions express the idea of movement in space as well. However, an animation cycle does not have any influence in the displacement of the animated object. Rather, you get the full animation look and feel through a combination of external motion control. For example, a motion actuator. Okay, so with this right here, I got this animation. I can actually have a motion, let me get to the logic editor. Okay, along with this action, okay, I can actually add a, motion actuator. So let's have a motion. Where did that do this? Okay, I can have a motion actuator, okay, that rises up on the z-axis by 1 every time when you hold the space bar. So let's do 1. Okay, actually we're not going to do that. We're going to do another keyboard because I don't want to use the same one. We'll do the 1 key. Okay, but that one. You can have these together, but I just want to be able to show them off to where they work. Okay, so if I hit the space bar, it's just going to do its little animation. But if I hit 1, it's rising up. Or it should be rising up. Oh, why isn't it rising up? It's on the z-axis, right? Oh, location, yeah, z1. I do got the keyboard 1. Okay. Hit play again. Okay, see how it does it? Now the animation, okay, it's gonna continue on. Okay, but as long as I hold the key, the Z key, it's gonna keep wanting to go up. As you see, this can really become conflicting. But the idea is, you don't have to, your character doesn't have to move. You ain't gonna move each bone each step, is what it's trying to say. Okay. All right. So, still not convinced? What we are doing here is splitting the bone pose animation from the object animation. Okay, we could indeed make the character move forward by moving all the bones in that direction, like we're doing with the box. Okay, like with the cube. Okay, we could indeed make the character move forward by moving the bones in that direction, although this would make the object mesh display in the right place. It wouldn't move the object center, which would result in errors for the physics computations and eventually for the display of the object itself. The physics bounding box is calculated around the object center, as does the camera culling test, the routine that makes sure that objects outside the camera range are not rendered. Okay, still animation cycles. There are cases where you don't need to displace your object when playing its animations, and we call them still animation cycles. An animation cycle without a displacement component is like a dog chasing its own tail. Kind of like our box here, it will move. You can get it to spin in a circle and not even move. Okay, as you see, you can move a box because it has no bones. But a character is different. You have to move the bones. So you make the bones move, and then you would use a motion actuator to move it forward. Let's see. I do want to try one thing. Let's take that, put that there. There. I just want to try this. No, it's still good. Okay. I was just curious. Alright. For example, if you are doing a breathing animation cycle or making your character tap its foot while waiting impatiently for you to make a move, if you remember Sonic, okay, all the animation is controlled by the armature poses. Even if your character has to move around a bit, you would not use a motion actuator here. In these cases, make sure that the final pose is in the same position as the initial one, because it does help. Actions and F-curves. An action in Blender is something special for animation. It is by its definition, an action is a collection of channels of F-curves. It allows a property, object size, bone position, etc., to have a different value along different frames. But what are F-curves? Functional curves is what an F-curve is. Are curves created by control points, the keyframed position. So each keyframe, let me go back to my timeline here. Each keyframe, okay, is part of is the setting point for an F curve. Excuse me, S curves. No, we're not going around the street, are we? Okay, so between this one here and this one here, okay, is an F curve. Okay, it has a choice of doing one or the other, and it dances between those 2 points. So when you're going from this position and you have to make it to this position, it shows that animation rotating. Okay, same thing with this one. See how fast it turns? I did that one at 45 degrees, I did this one at 45 and this one at 95. Okay. Okay, as in Blender, in the game engine, you don't need to define a keyframe for every single frame of your animation. The parts of the curve between frames will be calculated based on the interpolation interpolation settings and the handlers of each of the keyframes. Okay, these are your handlers right here. Handler, 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 handler. Okay, in between that is, where it has to use the interpolation. Okay, and it calculates it for you. When we walk around the action of an object, or when we talk about the actions of an object, we are referring to the current action linked to it. This is the animation that will be played when you play back the animation in the viewport, or if you render the animation from Blender. This is also the action the keyframes are stored in. To play this action in the game engine, you need to get the action name and use the action actuator. Select the object, and you will find the action in the dope sheet when set to action editor. Now I'm going to switch back over to here to our logic editor, and they don't need a motion. Okay, this right here is called the cube action because I used the cube and I made my action. Up here it has the name cube action. Okay, it has location and location rotation. Okay, now I can actually delete, get rid of this one. Okay, oops, I did the wrong one. Control Z. That one. Okay, I can get rid of that one, and it will still do the same. Okay. Oops. Escape. Did I lose them all? Move back to my timeline. No, they're still there. I just didn't do it right. So I need to put this back on one. As you notice, now it's not moving. Okay. So now, let's just leave it alone. You don't want to delete these. Okay. I did this location, so I actually had it moving on that location at the beginning, and then I changed the location and rotation on each one. Okay, so now I had to make sure that the location is still on there. If I take that location off, it won't work. Okay, as you saw, it sat there and spun. Okay, here, I'll even show you just to make sure you saw it. Okay, so I hit play, and I hit the space bar. You notice it goes up because I have it hooked to something else again. Okay, let's separate that. There we go. Now if I hit P, you notice it's doing it without the movement. Okay, it won't move. That right there is what they call the still animation. That's a still animation, and the other one is a moving animation, where you're moving it on location. Let's see, there we go. Bring it back, and if we hit play, P, yeah, it'll do that again. Okay. Okay, we're almost to our 15-minute interval. Okay, so when we talk about the action of an object, we are referring to the current action. I just read that, didn't I? No, I didn't. Yeah, I did. Did I? Yeah, okay, when you play back the animation in the viewport, or if you run the animation in Blender. This is also the action the keyframes are stored in. To play this action, yeah, I already read that. Okay, so don't lose your action is the last one we'll do before we end it. See? Yeah, no, we might have to go ahead and wait till we get to armature poses. So it'll be a little bit longer. Okay, so don't lose your action. If you want to play different actions for the same object during a game, you need to create them in Blender. An action is a data block that can be named, removed, imported, and linked as any other Blender data block. It is important to set the fake user option in the header of the dope sheet set to action editor. If you plan to unlink an action from an object and create a new one. Otherwise, the software will assume you no longer need the action and will remove it the next time you save and reopen your file. Also, you can use an action created by one object in another object, proven that they are compatible. It's supposed to be provided, I think. For most objects, all they need is to be of the same type. For armatures, They also should have the same amount of bones with the same names. For meshes with shape key actions, the shape key channels need to have the same name. Okay. So that's just a little bit of tidbit information for you. At first, we don't edit a curve directly in the F-curve editor. Okay, so that's, oops, get this to pull back up. Okay, this is your F-curve or your graph editor. Let's pull it out here. And as you see, I've got this little whoop. It just jumps like that, and then you got everything else, okay? You know, the more animations you got, the more you'll see in here, okay? These are here are actually the motions, and this is moving from one point to another point. Okay, I think that's actually to rotate, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So that is actually moving it from point A to point B, and then this one is actually moving it all around and making it spin on its axis. See, the usual workflow is to first keyframe some parameters. For example, position and rotation. Did that already. We did location and rotation. Okay, the position and rotation, same thing. All right, in the 3D view. After the blocking of your key and in between poses, you may want to do tiny adjustments in the curve. This is the time when you can go to the F-curve editor and make changes directly in the curve. With some practice, you may even look at the chaos as in figure 4-2, which is, there we go, okay, which is this one, okay, just cacophony right here, and see bouncing balls and smooth fade ins and fade outs. So some of these you can see, that's a bouncing ball right there. That's a bouncing ball. And that's a bouncing ball. Okay, the smooth fade ins and fade outs are these curves. How it curves, how much bounce it has. Okay, comparable. That's what they're talking about. Even when you're using the action actuator, you will be internally manipulating F-curves through the dope sheet or, luckily, the 3D view. The only actions that will change your object geometry are the bone pose action and the shape key actions. The former will play the bone pose action for your armature, while the latter plays the shape key action, affecting the whole mesh. Other actions can be used to animate your object as a whole without affecting its internal geometry. You can move the object, change its size, rotate it, and animate its specific type parameters. For example, you can animate a camera to follow a predetermined path or animate a lamp to flicker to dimly colored dynamic light. Does your camera need to change the lens during the game? An action can easily do that for you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and leave it off there. We're going to go into armature and poses next week. So let me switch back over to here. Animations, we're going to get deeper into animations. This is just the start of chapter 4. It's just getting you a little bit of a taste of what it's like. We're not going to go too far into it, and try to get you too lost, because we're actually going to do some stuff with animations and try to play with some animations. And we might try to come up with some characters. And, if you want to, and a little bit of homework for you, make you a character. Doesn't have to be perfect, couple blobs, make it have legs and some arms and a head. And put that together, work on that, throughout the next week. And next week, I'd like to see what you've got, for one. And we'll work a little bit more on animations, and we'll probably add bones and armatures and stuff like that. But you want to have that character for whenever you do go to do armatures and poses, because you're going to have something to do. Cube, yeah, you can do it, but it's a pain. Trust me, I've tried it before. So, till next time.